Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and we're starting just a couple minutes late today. That's just how it happens on a Sunday. Sometimes you're just a little slow moving. Do you ever find that? And it's almost Monday. We're going to create, and you might notice that the things on my screen look a little bit different because I've got my Versa mat already flipped over to the back side. We're going to do a little bit of messy tonight, and we're doing actual messy. Sometimes we do messy without the mess, but we're going to do some actual messy tonight. And so we're going to bring in the all-purpose mat in a minute and get started with that. Hey, Joanne, nice to see you're watching. If you're popping on to watch, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later, you can just say replay. Alrighty, we are going to start with bringing in the all-purpose mat. We're going to be using the Storybook collection today. And we are going, oh my goodness, dusty and dirty. We are going to be creating a little bit of a fun background for our page right off the get-go. Hey Lisa, nice to see you're here watching. So we're going to start with a plain piece of white daisy cardstock. Oh my goodness, isn't that always fun when we start with a plain piece of cardstock, but we're not going to leave it like that. We are going to jazz it up quite a bit, and we will make it look a little different than a white piece of cardstock. So we are going to be using the Storybook collection today, and that is in the current January to March catalog. The Storybook collection is really fun. We started using this during the crop at the beginning of February. This is the featured collection for the month of February. Good evening, Mom. Nice to see you're watching. And so we are going to be using a couple of the pattern papers. We're going to be using some black cardstock, which is one of the coordinating colors. And we are going to be using the stamp set here because we're going to need this cute little dragony dragon. And then we are also going to be using some stencils. Let me just see. I can't remember. Yes, we're going to be using this stencil here, which is from Card Front Pattern Stencils. This one has dots and stars. We're also going to be using the Slimline layering stencil from the core catalog. And we're going to be using an alphabet set from the core catalog too. So that gives you just a general idea of where we're going with this. And I just realized that everything's a little askew here. That means that my camera's a little bit tipped one way. Let me see if I can fix it or make it worse. So let's see. How did I do? I'm just waiting for the video to catch up. All right. I think we're good now. Yes. Maybe. It's looking all right. All right. And, oh, I got messages popping up. I'm using my laptop, so of course my messages are popping up in front of your comments. Hey, Carol. Oh no, it's circling. It hasn't started broadcasting for you. Oh gosh. Hopefully it picks up. And hello. Heather, I see you're watching. Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of messages. People are having conversations and it's popping into my messenger. Yes, we're going to do a dragony dragon. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with Mist ink, and this whole project is going to be sort of focused on the mist. So that's why I've got the Misty Dragon title on tonight's video. So we are going to start by adding some ink right to the all-purpose mat. So I'm going to start by making like a sort of a puddle puddle like that, and then I'm just going to kind of drag it some ink down here like this. Okay, you can probably see that in your camera. And then I'm going to kind of make another little puddly goodness happening here, and I'm going to drag it up this way like that. Okay, and there we go. So sometimes it's fun to just add stuff right onto the paper and add it right onto the Versamat. Now I'm going to take my little sprayer here and give it a nice good spritz of water to get it all excited. Get my ink all excited. There we go. And we are going to take our cardstock and we're just going to stick it down in the goodness. So let me see. Just going to stick that in there like that and kind of give it a good press and a rub. And this is the kind of messy where you're not sure what's going to happen and you just have to wait and see. Ooh, that looks fun. And then let's take this side and stick it in the messy goodness and give it a little bit of a rub around like that. And let's see what happened. Ooh, this is looking good. Very nice. Okay, I'm liking what's happening there. And so I think we're just going to leave it like that. Maybe I'll pick up just a little bit more of this on the edge because it's on my mat, so I might as well pick it up. And then let's give this a wipe down so we can get rid of some of that excess water and stuff that's hanging out there. Now, in order to continue on with what we're doing, we're going to have to dry our paper just a little bit because we have just put a decent amount of water on here. And so I've got my heat tool, and I can just take my heat tool and give it a bit of a zappity zap. Now, adding water to your White Daisy cardstock will naturally result in it warping a little bit. Don't worry about that. By the time you get it in the page protector, it will be nice and flat. Nobody will know it was warpity warped. So I'm just going to heat it on the front and the back with my heat tool, like so. And then we're going to move over to the other side and give it some heat. I love that texture that we got on that. That's so fun. I'm trying to decide if I want to add any more, but I think we're going to end up adding enough color with some other techniques that we're going to be doing with the stencils. So I'm just going to go with what we picked up there. So that was pretty quick and easy. All we did was just smushed our ink pad down onto our all-purpose mat, transferring ink, and then we spritzed it with a bit of water and then just stuck our paper in. Easy peasy. Nothing too hard about that. All right. Now the good thing about heating it on the back side is it does help take out some of the warp. Not all of the warp, but some of the warp. And just put that back down. But if you notice, this is, it's a little bendy. So all you got to do is just curl it around the other way. Just give it a little curl. And then go the opposite direction, like that. Sometimes even going on the diagonal helps. But eventually it will just naturally settle down. It's looking pretty good already. It's not got hardly any warp now. So that's quick and easy. Now, just to make sure that that's nice and dry, because we're going to be doing some stenciling. And if your paper is wet, when you go to rub it with a brush or a foam, it will pill the paper, because that's what paper does. When you get it wet and then rub on it, it's going to pill up, right? So, oops, I got messages popping up again. Oh my goodness. Oh, Carol says she can see us now. Hooray. And Joanne's loving it already. Hello, Deborah. Nice to see her watching. And I've got everything lit up. Okay, there we go. sorted it out. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to bring in the layering stencil from the core catalog. And we use this during the crop, and this is the first layer that we used, and it's this one that's sort of got the interlinked circles, and I thought it kind of gave that sort of chainmail look or dragon scale look, kind of stylized, but you know, it still works. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to scooch this over a bit. We're going to just add some stenciling. So I'm going to actually have my stencil right off the edge of my page. And because this is for a slimline card, it's nice and long, but it's not long enough to cover the whole page or anything. So we're going to have to shift it as we go, but that's totally okay. I've got my blending brush here. I've got my mist ink. So remember, we said we're doing Misty Dragon. So we're just going to keep layering up the mist for this particular layout. So let's add some mist through the stencil, and you can do it as dark or as light as you want. And just go ahead and get that on there. And what you want to avoid is you want to avoid the straight edges. So don't go all the way across your stencil, because you don't want to have that sort of straight edge look. So what we're going to do is when we get to the point where we want to shift it, we're going to pick it up and we're going to move it. And that will allow us to continue stenciling. All you got to do is line up the stencil and just keep going. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Isn't that what Dory says? And I'm going to kind of go in a meandering path across my layout here, like this, and going to move again. I'm kind of going up as I move across, so you'll notice that. And we're getting closer and closer to the top. Just line everything up. There we go. And then a little bit more stenciling, and you can get a little bit lighter as you go along, so it kind of looks like it's fading out, and you know, create just the look that you want to create. So there, we've done sort of a meandering trail of our stencil going across there. Now let's add some to the other side as well. Let's just kind of go along the edge here, and we'll add some stenciling here. And I also want to add a bit more color on this side. So I'm going to go a little bit heavier on the very edge. Got to kind of move my fingers out of the way. So I'll go a little heavier along the edge, and then I will kind of fade as I come in. There we go. Like that. Now, some of this is going to get covered up by what we do a little bit later. And let's shift up to here. Line this up again. So we're going to kind of go off the edge there. And then let's add a little bit up here as well. Just a little touch of color, because there's not much happening up here. There we go. Okay. Maybe even a little bit farther over. Let me add. See, this is the thing about playing with stencils. You just kind of play until you're happy with it. Just add another little touch there. There we go. Looking good. Does that look dragony to you? I thought that stencil in particular gave a little bit of a dragon feel. So then we're also bringing in a second stencil, and this is the one from the little card front stencil pack, the pattern one. And it has little circles and stars, which works really well with our dragon. So let's go ahead. We're going to add some of these up here and just have it kind of on the edge like that. And we're just adding a little bit here and there. It's not going to be as much as the other one. There we go. And then let's add a little bit down here too, just for a little extra texture. Like that. And let's add some course, I said we're not going to do a lot, but now I'm going to go all over the place. Why not, right? Let's add some there. Let's add some over here. And I'm kind of going side to side because I want to make it a little bit haphazard, and which is not how you generally use a stencil, but that's okay. And then kind of come down there like that. But see how it creates kind of that jaggedy line, because you're not you know, going in a particular circle-y pattern, so you get a little bit more leeway with it, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. And then let's add some down here, just in the corner. And a little bit lighter up here. And a tiny little touch up here as well. Just like that. Looking fun. I'm enjoying this. What do you guys think? How's it going so far? Hey, Ellie, nice to see you're watching. Sorry, I'm off the edge. We're all a little crooked here tonight, so I don't know which way is which. We'll get it sorted out eventually. And so there, we have done a bunch of stenciling and adding of texture, and now we need to start adding in some paper. So let's close this up, move it out of the way. And the first layer I want to bring in is this one from the collection. Let me just rearrange things here so we can get rid of our all-purpose mat. We're kind of done the real messy stuff now. Let's get ourselves lined up. One moment, please, as we adjust for our technical difficulties. There we go. We're all a little crooked, but that gets us kind of in the frame. So there we go. There's our layout, and we're adding in this piece. I love this. It looks like a coloring book, which is fun and young, and it's got the dragons and the castles and so many good things, and the swords and shields and all that fun stuff. And I have cut this to 4 3/4 by 9 1/2. The first thing I want to do is to grab my scissors, and I'm not going to say round the corners, but I'm going to lop off the corners just ever so slightly. And I want it to be kind of uneven, so it's kind of jaggedy. It's not really rounding per se, just knocking a little bit of the point off of those corners. And then what I want to do is I want to do some inking, some inking on the edge. So I'm going to bring in my mist again, and we're just going to go ahead and ink the edges. And I'm going to kind of ink it heavy on the edge. And in fact, I probably meant to leave my Versamat here to do a little bit more, but I think we'll just make do. I'm going to add some ink on the edges with our mist. And I'm using my foam blending tool for this, just to get some good color on there. And you can tell I'm not going carefully, right? This is a messy layout. We don't have to go carefully. And then I'm going to, yes, I am. I'm going to do a little bit of inking with my blending brush as well. And you know what? I'm just going to flip my paper over, and I'm going to use this because I already put my messy mat away. And I just want to add a little touch more color on the edges of this paper. Not a lot, just a little. There we go. Do you ever use the back of your layout as scrap paper? It totally works because it's going to end up in an album. You're never going to see it. There we go. Okay. Excellent. We might need that again, so I won't put it too far away. Okay, so let's flip this back over, and we'll line it back up. There we go. Okay, so we've got our lopped off corners. We've done some inking around the edges. We've added a little bit more color, and now we're actually going to distress the edges. And I'm just going to use the edge of my scissors for this. And you will see as we create that we are going to just create layers and layers of this mist color on here. It's like dragons in the mist. I think there was a book and a video about gorillas in the mist with a famous biologist. And so this is dragons in the mist. Misty dragons. All the way around. We're not being too careful with this. We just want to add a little bit of texture. Okay. And now let's stick this down. I don't even get my adhesive out. And I'm only going to add adhesive right in the very center because I'm going to need to tuck some stuff under here later. You know me, I like to add little touches here and there. And so we want to leave leeway for doing that. All right. So let's go ahead and attach this right about there. Like so. Hopefully got it straight-ish. And then I've got a piece of the pattern paper from the Storybook collection that has the beautiful stripes and dots. And I've done the exact same thing. I've inked around the edges. I've used my blending brush to add some more ink. And I've roughed up the edges. I've trimmed off the edges. I've done all those things. So we're going to go ahead and layer this on top. Just like this. Oh, and this piece was 4.5 by 8. 4.5 by 8. And layering it up. The back side is really pretty with all those stars and sparkly little bits. Very magical. And so let's layer this on top, and we're going to kind of have it stick out the side like that and come down and layer right on there. So a lot of this paper you're not actually seeing, but that's okay. That's part of what we created. All right, now I have my photos, and you're probably wondering, what in the world photos am I going to use on this? So here are my two boys when they were much younger. I believe this was probably during March break, and we were at grandmother and grandfather's house, and they were putting together a model. And so they were working together on it, and I'm going to be using the gray or mist paper with the little arrows on it as matting for the photos. So these photos are they're 3x3s. So then the matting is just a little bit bigger, 3 1/4. And here's another angle of them working on their model. And then here you can see the finished product. And I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be an alligator or a crocodile. But we're going to pretend it's a dragon because it's kind of very similar in my books. And we're going to do the same treatment with these mattings too. We're going to knock off just a little bit on the corners, just ever so slightly. And then we're going to ink around the edges, just like that. Just to keep it all samey, right? We did inking on all the other layers. We might as well do it on the photo mats. All the way around. Oh, I got more messages popping up. People discussing a crop. And apparently I'm on the list. So all the messages keep popping up. Woohoo! And then we're going to, of course, rough up the edges as well. Let me see. Oh, Kimberly's saying loving it. Carol's loving it. Woohoo! We're getting messy tonight. I knew Kimberly would like this. Kimberly likes the messy stuff, right? Ooh, use the outside edge. I've always done the inside. Oh, are you talking about how I distress the edges? Yeah, I just use the outside of my scissors. Because it's not going to damage my cutting blade. Because you don't ever cut with the back side of your scissors. So I don't have to worry about that, and it does a decent job. It doesn't give you as much roughing as the inside of your scissors, but it works. Works. There we go. Or you can use an actual edge distresser. You know, they do make such things. All right, so now we can go ahead and attach our photos to this. And I think I'm going to put my photos on, but then I'm going to use some foam tape on the matting, just for a little bit of lift and dimension. So we're going to go ahead and stick our photos on. There's 1, 2, and then the last one we're going to stick on as well. The great thing about this pattern that I'm using, oops, that was really crooked. Oh well. The pattern that I'm using is great because it doesn't matter which direction it goes. The arrows go in all the different directions, so I could have these totally upside down and nobody would ever know. Plus, not a lot of it's showing. It's just kind of texture and color, right? I could have just used the mist cardstock, but I thought this was a little more exciting. And then let me grab some foam tape. And this is just the thin foam tape. Let's add some. Oh, there, I can see this one's crooked. That's all right. See how the little hearts are going to the side? That means I've got my pattern turned to the side, and that's okay. That'll work. Let's see. This one, turn to the opposite side. Nothing like variety, right? Variety is the spice of life, but it all works. That's the great thing about a random pattern. And then the last one, let's see. Oh, this one, I actually have the right way up. It's always fun to check. Fun to check and see. So you can tell I'm keeping this layout very masculine. I'm keeping it kind of monochromatic, but not entirely monochromatic because we do have the stripes in here. And then my photos, I don't necessarily want straight, okay? So I'm going to give them a little bit of this way and that when I stick them down. And that's why I didn't worry that my photo was a little bit crooked on that second photo mat, because I'm going to stick it down crooked. Anywho, it's all good. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit this way. And then the next one, we're going to go a little bit the other way. Take off the backing. You could also add some splattering on this background. You know, you could get out your shimmer brushes. You could splatter on there. You could add other colors if you want. But I just thought that keeping it all with the mist color would be really nice. It took me a while to get the mist color because I kept forgetting to order it, and then it was out of stock, and now it's back in, and so I was like, woohoo, I can order the ink. So there we go. We've got our 3 photos going like that. And then the reason why I left the edges so that I could tuck things under is because, do you remember this thin cut that came out for National Card Making Day or Stamping Month or something like that, when we had the little critters card making workshop kit and all that stuff, and this fun little circles cluster thin cut, and which, you know what, if you got it, you might as well use it, right? So I've gone ahead and I have cut a couple of these clusters using black cardstock, and I thought that it kind of went with this whole interlocking circles thing, and I wanted a little extra texture and a little extra design and a little extra bold color on my page. So I'm going to go ahead and add some glue on here, just here and there. And normally when I do this, I put the glue on my hand, but I'm going to attempt to stick it on this, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see. We'll try with the first one and then see what happens. All right, so let me see. Let's go this way. And we're going to tuck it under here. Hopefully I've left enough space to get it tucked without hitting into the adhesive. That's looking good. Look at that. There we go. And then we've got a second one. And we're going to go ahead and add some adhesive to this as well. Just like that, here and there. It doesn't all have to be stuck down. If you're worried, you can go ahead and stick it all down. Some people like to put things like this through, what is it, a Xyron to add the adhesive, but I'm just going to go here and there, and I'm going to tuck that under there like that. So fun. I just realized the little tips I cut off of one of the things is still hanging around down there. So I'll just kind of brush it away before I get it stuck on. All right. Now, we're talking about a dragon. So we're going to need a title on here. And the title is going to be created using the Daydream Alphabet set. And I actually bought this on purpose because I thought it matched the Storybook collection really well. So let me scooch our layout out of the way here for a moment. And I want to bring in a piece of cardstock that I actually went ahead and did some inking on earlier when I was practicing my technique. Because it's always good to practice technique before you try something live, right? And, oh, I'm just seeing people have, yes, Ellie, this close to my heart distressing tool, nice and purpley and round. So fun. I used to have one too, but I lent it to somebody and it's never come back, but that's okay. So I have this here and I've done some inking on it just the same way. I just threw some ink on my all-purpose mat and I sprayed it and with water and just smooshed my paper into it. So now I'm going to bring out my stamps, and I'm not going to stamp all the letters all at once because I want to make sure I get them where I want them. And one thing that I like to do when I'm stamping letters is I actually use a stamp block that's bigger than my letter, like excessively bigger than my letter, because that way I can see the letters that come before and try and line it up nicer that way. So I've got my intense black ink so we can get some bold color on there. And we're going to stamp a D. Now you can see I've smooshed in the edge of my ink. But that's okay because we're actually going to be fussy cutting this out. But I will watch for that because I don't want it to end up in the wrong place. And then the R, we're going to spell out the word dragon, of course. Let me just double check the edges. DR. I couldn't think of a really great title for this, so I thought I would just go with dragon. You know, sometime down the road, if I think of something else, I'll just add a little subtitle. I was thinking if I could find some pictures from Beaverton at Papa's house. He had all sorts of fun snapdragons. And I have pictures of the kids with the snapdragons. And they were growing just like through the sidewalk beside his house and the brickwork. And then I could do something like, oh snap, or something, right? Or snapdragon, because I thought that would be fun. But I'll have to get my husband to look through the large amount of photos to find those. D-R-A-G. As I'm talking, I'm hopefully not spelling it wrong. O. And then N. L-M-N. Right beside the O. Woohoo! One more. And I have used these before, so they've already been seasoned, so I didn't have to do that. I just had to do the stamping. All right, let's put that away. Ooh, and a little tool is rolling around on my table. Okay, so we've got our dragon. And I think it's kind of fun that we're just doing the same color over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and rough cut this so that I don't have as much excess to worry about as I'm fussy cutting. There we go. And then we're going to fussy cut. So we're going to leave a halo just like we do when we're doing an image. And we're going to go kind of in and out as our mood strikes our fancy. However it strikes our fancy to do so. So we're not necessarily going into all the spots, but we'll do some. And these were the same alphabets that I used when I made that brick wall for a technique during the crop, which was super fun. And some of you have tried recreating that. How cool. And we're just going to go around. I love that each of these letters is kind of different. Kind of makes it look like you went for different fonts, you know. But they all kind of jive together. They're the same size and whatnot. There we go. We got too much excess. We'll just trim that off and keep going all the way around. Lots of paper pivoting when you do fussy cutting. And there you can see we're going right through where we made that little bit of mess with the ink. No problem. Now, I'm not going to cut out the interior of any of these letters. I could if I wanted to, but it kind of lets us see that splatter pattern that was created on the paper, and that is super fun. So let's bring in our layout, and I'm going to add this right about here, just like that, and I'm going to use some foam tape. Now, since this side has already been popped up a little bit, I'm going to use thin over here and thick over here. So let's grab the thin foam tape for the D and the R. D, R. I could even, you know, if I was going to be really fussy about it, I could even, my brain just shut down for a second. I could even do double matting for this, or do extra matting, and I could have, take black and go around to make it really stand out, but I think it's just fine the way it is. So now I'm going to use just regular foam tape over on this side, and that will keep my title kind of even. D-R-A-G-O-N. There we go. And we can go ahead and stick it down. Remove the backing. I feel like I've got ink all over myself. You know you've had fun in your craft room when you've got the inky fingers, right? All right, so let's tuck this little dragon title here. And if you notice, I have kind of, there was just stuff on the table here. And then this is kind of up, you know, in a dark spot there, which kind of helps you see the beginning of the title. But I'm not covering up anything major on the photos. It's always important. If I had done it here, I'd be chopping Justin's head and body off. So that's always important to remember. Apparently I'm doing something on purpose. Let me see. What am I? Oh, Kimberly, the alphabet. Right? It's a fun alphabet. Oh, Brenda, like the brick wall. Yes, yes. Alrighty. Now, we also need to bring in our dragon, because we can't not have our dragon. So let me just grab the stamp set. There's our cute little dragon there. And we're almost done. Hang in there. We're just about there. And we could do the same thing where we stamped on a piece that we have already done some inking on, but we're going to do a little bit different. Oh, I already took them off. I've already got them loaded on a block. We're going to do a little bit different technique for him. And so let me just grab Nice stamping foam. And the intense black ink. And this one, we definitely need the intense black ink for this because we are going to get a little messy. We've already been messy. We're going to get more messy. So we're going to just go ahead and ink this guy up like so. And I hope your video is working because mine has died. I'm going to just refresh my screen. I was spinning on myself. There we go. Just stamp our cute little dragon. Oh my goodness. Have I mentioned that I really like this dragon? I might have. One time or another. And we're going to bring in our mist ink again. And this time we're going to squeeze our ink pad. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And transfer some of that ink to the lid. We're going to park our ink pad far away so we don't accidentally have an accident. And just use our small round water brush. We'll squeeze a little water onto here and we're just going to use it like a paint palette. And we're going to pick it up and we're going to do some watercoloring, but this is going to be messy watercoloring. We're not being careful, okay? So we're just going to go like this and we're going to get the color on there, okay? We're not caring if we're inside the lines. We're just adding color to our dragon, okay? And you want to work fairly quickly so that, you know, you kind of get color here and there and everywhere. If there's some white spots at the end, it's okay. We're going for mess. A little bit of messy, a little bit of haphazard, and just like that. That's all we need to do. Don't you love that kind of painting? Anybody can do that. Give your water brush a little bit of squeeze, and that cleans it out. And then we're going to use our tissue and clean all the water out of the lid. You don't want to stick that lid back on while there is water in there. There we go. And now we can stick that back on. Now, our little dragon, he's wet. We can't fussy cut him right now. So we need to bring in our heat tool and give him a little wazoo, a little waz. Kimberly loves her dragon. Hey, Robin, nice to see her watching. Yay, Kimberly, I'm glad it's still working on your end. It was just mine. And, you know, that's life sometimes. I like that this watercolor technique, it kind of reminds me, you know, when you're a kid and you get those ones where it's like a coloring book, but you use a little brush with water and all the color is on there and it's just sort of like little dots and you just brush haphazardly over the surface and it magically becomes painted. That's what this technique reminds me of, and I think it's super fun because my kids, well, Joshua would have been about that age where he still would have used those kinds of, you know, it's not even paint by numbers, it's just paint with water. Kinds of things. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to fussy cut him out. But you don't necessarily want to sit here and watch me fussy cut. So I already have one that I did earlier. And we're going to just give him a little bit. I'm just thinking on my feet. We're going to use our little white gel pen. And just color in his little cheeky like that. We're going to give him a little shine on his nose. And this is something we've been doing when we've been coloring and inking our little guys. We're going to give him some little glints on his dragon scales like that. And some little dots around the black dots. Just because. Whew. I don't know what I got into. I'm going to take a sip of water quick. That's better. Okay, and let's bring in our foam tape again. We're going to pop this guy up with some foam tape. Super fun. Oops, it's bouncing all over. And then we need to think about, do we need some extra embellishments? So I grabbed a handful of different things that I thought would look good with our dragon. I'm not even going to stick down his tail. It's just going to trail behind him. And so I pulled out some of the different dots. I've got some yellow and orange dots. I've got some black and white dots. Did I get all those? I guess I did. We're going to tuck our little dragon right on there, kind of just underneath the title. Maybe move him over just a smidge so his tail kind of hits the edge of the photo. Tuck him down there like that. So cute. All right. And so I was saying, I grabbed a bunch of enamel dots. So I've got the yellow ones because we've got the honey butter going here, but that might be too bright because we've kept everything kind of dull. Then I've got the gray dots, which would probably work really good, but they just might blend in too much. I've got the black and white dots, and I've also got some black bursts, which are a retired item, but you gotta remember to use the things that are in your stash too. So maybe let's take a look at these black bursts, because I think those might look fun on here. We could add a few of these here and there. Let me grab my piercing tool for this. All right. So let's give our little dragon here a couple little bursts around him. I think it's kind of nice. These kind of go with this little star kind of thing that happens here, and all the different geometric shapes that are on here. And maybe another one down here just by his toe. Then we could, of course, add some over here just to bring a little bit to this side. And we can even come up here like this. And we want one up here. We just might. Maybe we'll just tuck one right there. I know we're getting a little bit different from what we normally do, but that's okay. And maybe one down here. And I'm mumbling to myself. One there. And one there. There we go. Some nice little black bursts. Just like that. And actually, I think I'm going to shift this one and put it over here with this one, because I think it'll look a little bit nicer that way. Alrighty. So there we go. We have created our messy Misty dragon layout. We started out by adding some mist to our all-purpose mat, spritzing it with water, and just putting our paper right into it. Then we came in with the Slimline stencil and did some stenciling here and there and everywhere. We also brought in the card front patterns stencil and added another little layer of texture everywhere. And the great thing about this is we've used the same ink color, but because we're layering color on color on color, you end up with variations. So this one here looks a lot darker because it's on top of ink that's already there. So you've doubled your ink. And then we added in our circles, clusters, thin cuts to create some fun dimension and add a little bit of bold color. We've got our pattern papers that we distressed and inked and created a sort of a little bit of color around the photos because we're picking up some of the colors that are in the photos. There's some red and orange and yellow and brown and all these fun colors, blue. And so we might as well reflect that in some of the pattern paper. And then again, we distressed and inked the pattern paper for the photo mats, layered those up with a little bit of foam tape for some dimension. And then here we used some extra practice paper that we'd already inked up with some mixed media inking, same as we did over here. So carrying the same idea. And then we added our little watercolor dragon with a little bit of white gel pen on there just to make him super happy and super cute. Oh my gosh, I hope you guys like that layout. And if you create something like this, same kind of idea with inking and stenciling, be sure to take a photo and pop it in the comments, and I would love to see it and be happy to have you share it with all of us. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again soon. Toodaloo. Bye.